The graveyard was quiet, dead quiet. Only the sound of light wind moving through the trees could be heard as Mr. Lee was lowered into the ground. Taehyung stood stone, still black suit, gloves on, emotion unreadable. Widen stood a few feet away, face hidden behind her long hair and a white dupatta. She wore white not for mourning, but for how numb her soul had become. She hadn't cried, not when she got the call. Not when they told her father died taking a bullet meant for Taehyung, not even now. She just stood still. Taehyung walked toward her. Widen, she didn't look at him. We'll have the wedding in 1 month. She blinked once. That's all, then slowly turned to face him. Her eyes were empty. Wedding. It was his last wish, he said simply. Yeah, she whispered. Another wish for you. Taehyung didn't flinch, but the words sliced. He was always by your side, she said. Every moment I needed him, he was with you. He saved my life and lost being a father in the process. She stepped back. Tell me where to decide. I'll marry you for him. But don't expect a smile or a thank you. She turned away, hair whipping in the wind. Because I'm not mourning just my father today, Taehyung. I'm mourning a man I never really had. The wedding wasn't grand, no music, no dance, no laughter. Just papers, rings, and silence. Wyan walked down the aisle in white silk, no lace, no glam. Just quiet elegance. Taehyung stood like a statue, face unreadable as ever. They didn't exchange vows. No one said you may kiss the bride. Later that night, Wyan sat in her new room, the Kim mansion, cold and heavily guarded. Her white bridal bangles lay untouched beside her on the table. She stared at her reflection. Mrs. Kim, she whispered to herself, daughter of a man I barely knew. Wife of a man I don't know at all. She smiled bitterly. And they say I'm lucky. But that didn't mean she'd let Kim Taehyung treat her like she didn't exist. That morning, she walked into the private lounge wearing a soft ivory satin blouse and white-legged trousers, her hair in a neat braid down one. Taehyung sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. She stood in front of him silently. He did. Wyan calmly, you married me, Mr. Kim, so look at me when I walk into a room. His fingers froze mid-scroll. Slowly, he looked up, met her eyes, cold and readable. But there was something. Taehyung quietly, you talk too much. Wyan tilting her head. And you're used to girls who don't talk unless you say so. Too bad, you married me. Taehyung stared. Something in his jaw twitched. Maybe anger, maybe amusement. Then he stood up tall, imposing, dangerous. He leaned down, his face inches from hers. Taehyung low voice, you don't fear me. Wyan soft smile, should I? There was a pause, long, charged. Then his lips brushed her ear. Taehyung, no one ever talks back to me. Wyan leaning closer. No one ever marries you either. She turned and walked away, leaving him breathless and curious. That night, he walked past her room. Her door was open. She sat inside with her sketchpad, barefoot, humming something softly. She looked up. Wyan, I'm not going to bite you. You know. Taehyung, depends on your mood. She chuckled. Wyan, you look tired. Don't sleep on your couch again. Your bed's big enough for both of us. I promise I won't stab you. Unless you deserve it. Taehyung's lips twitched into something dangerously close to a smile. He walked into the room without a word and lay down beside her, fully clothed. They didn't touch, but for the first time, the air between them was warm. Mia walked into the estate in a tight black jumpsuit and sky-high heels, her perfume stinging the air. She walked into the lounge and found Taehyung sipping espresso. He looked up. Mia smirking, didn't take you for the married type, boss. Taehyung flatly. I wasn't, she laughed, trying to close the distance. Mia, well, don't worry. I know you're just fulfilling a dying man's wish. One day you'll get bored of playing house with the porcelain doll. Behind them, soft footsteps echoed. Wyan entered, head held high, eyes calm, smile polite but deadly. Wyan gently, "Hi, you must be Mia, the office furniture that forgot it was never part of the house." Mia blinked. Taehyung's eyes widened a little, and just like that, Wyan sat down beside him, leaned her head on his shoulder, and smirked. "By the way, porcelain doesn't break. It shatters and cuts deep." It was just another meeting day at the Kim estate. Wyan sat at the long glass table sipping her espresso, reading through the floor plan of a new warehouse Tae had asked her to just give a quick opinion on. He said it casually, but she noticed the faint smirk when she got involved. He liked her brain, even if he didn't say it. That's when Mia walked in, heels clicking, file in hand, attitude loud. Mia smiling tightly. "Oh, sorry, didn't realize decorations were allowed at strategy meetings." Wyan without looking up. "Don't worry. You were always bad at realizing when you weren't needed." Mia's smile twitched. She walked closer to Taehyung's chair and placed a folder just a little too close to his arm. "Mia, I've got the updated contacts from the Seoul deal. Should I review them privately, boss?" Taehyung not looking at her. "Leave it on the table." "Me still trying. There's a few parts I'd like to explain." And I assumed she wouldn't be interested in. Wyan interrupting, finally looking up. "You assumed wrong. I'm very interested in watching you fail again." Mia glared. Wyan stood up slowly, calm as ever, walked around the table and stood face to face. "I get it. You wanted the last name. You wanted the position. But he chose me. Not even out of love, just out of promise, and yet I still shine brighter than you ever could." Taehyung looked up from his phone. His eyes were sharp now, focused. "Mia, he's not yours, you know? He's married, but not in love. Why, in smiling sweetly, yet I sleep in his bed, eat at his table, and wear his name." She leaned closer. You're just a paper pusher with delusions." Mia's hand twitched. She grabbed Wyan's wrist. "You think you're untouchable, Slim." Taehyung was on his feet. He was in front of Mia before she blinked. His hand wrapped around Mia's wrist, pulling her off Wyan instantly. His voice, low, deadly, final. "You don't touch her. Not in this house. Not anywhere." Mia's eyes widened. She looked at Taehyung, the man who'd once let her hover around him like perfume, and realized he'd turned ice cold. Taehyung still holding her wrist. "One more mistake, and I'll make sure you disappear so fast even your bones won't recognize you." He shoved her hand away and turned to Wyan, gently, calmly, like she was made of something sacred. "Are you okay?" Wyan simply nodded. "Good," Taehyung muttered. He turned to Mia one last time. "Pack your things. You're done here." Mia stood frozen, humiliated, shaking. Wyan walked past her, whispering softly as she did, "Don't worry, Mia. Some people get kicked out. Others never belonged in the first place." It was late. The estate was quiet. Wyan sat by the window in her room, the moonlight brushing her cheek as she slowly peeled the frosting off a cupcake she had stolen from the staff kitchen. She looked calm, but her mind replayed the moment over and over again. Taehyung standing in front of her. His voice like thunder. "You don't touch her." She didn't expect it. She didn't need him. But it shook something inside her. Just then, a knock. She didn't move. The door opened softly. Taehyung walked in holding a small white plate with a slice of chocolate cake, her favorite. He stood by the door for a second, unsure, like a boy asking to sit with his crush during lunch. Taehyung quietly, "I heard you skip dessert." Wyan blinked, caught off guard. "You brought me cake, Taehyung. I didn't know what else to bring." He walked over and placed it on the side table, careful, like she was something fragile he didn't want to break. "You didn't need me earlier," he said, standing in front of her now. "But I was glad I was there anyway." Wyan smiled softly. "You look like you were going to kill her." Taehyung sitting beside her. I would have. If you hadn't already done it with words. They both laughed, a rare sound that filled the room. A silence followed, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was warm, soft, Taehyung looked at her face, the calm strength in her eyes, the softness she hid behind steel walls. Taehyung, I've seen people kill with guns, poison, knife. But today, you did it in heels and honey-coated insults. Wyan smirked, licking frosting from her finger. I've got layers, Mr. Kim. Taehyung leaned forward. His voice dropped, and I want to peel back each one. Their eyes locked. He reached out, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. For the first time, he didn't look away after touching her. I've seen a lot of storms, Yn, but you're the kind that makes men build shelters and still drown willingly. Her breath hitched. He didn't move. And then softly, without pressure, he kissed her forehead, just once. Good night, wife. He walked away without another word, leaving her alone in the silence again. But this time, her heart was loud. The sun peeked into the Kim estate like it was scared to interrupt. Yn walked into the dining room, her silky lavender robe tied lazily around her waist, hair damp from her shower. She wasn't expecting anyone yet. It was barely 9 a.m., but there he was. Taehyung, already seated at the head of the table, a steaming cup of coffee in front of him, dark shirt unbuttoned just enough to make someone sin before breakfast. Yn raising an eyebrow. You're up early. Taehyung not looking up, didn't sleep. Yn sitting across from him, nightmares. Taehyung looking at her now, daydreams. You were in them. She blinked. Okay then, bold now, are we? The maid placed her breakfast down: eggs, toast, avocado. Yn picked up her fork, but paused when Taehyung pushed a small velvet box toward her across the table. Yn, what's this? Taehyung sipping coffee. Open it. She cautiously flipped it open. Her jaw dropped. A black choker, thin, sleek, stylish, but custom-lined with Kevlar. A bulletproof necklace. Yn laughing softly. You're unbelievable. Taehyung serious now. You walk through my house like you don't know what kind of men I deal with. You walk around unguarded, trusting. I won't allow it. Yn, you could have just said I care about you. Taehyung leaning forward. I don't say things like that. I do things like that. Yn picked up the necklace, holding it up to the light. It looked like jewelry. But it screamed protection. Yn playfully. What if I don't wear it? Taehyung smirking. Then I'll put it on myself. She rolled her eyes, but her cheeks were turning pink. Just then, a junior member of the mafia entered and bowed. Mafia guy, Mrs. Kim. Yn smiling. Sure, I'll come to your office in 10 minutes. The guy bowed again and walked out. Taehyung low tone. Why his office? Yn grinning. You jealous, Mr. Kim. Taehyung without missing a beat. No, just reminding you, you're the wife of a dangerous man. And dangerous men don't like sharing. He stood up, walked behind her, leaned down, and brushed her hair aside to clasp the necklace on her neck himself. His fingers lingered. His lips brushed her ear. Now behave, or I'll have to punish you later. He walked away, leaving her stunned at the table, heart racing and breakfast forgotten. It had been pouring for hours. The Kim estate was quiet to quiet. Yn stepped into Taehyung's private lounge, where the only light came from the fireplace. There he was, slouched on the couch, shirt half open, glass in hand, hair damp like he'd walked out into the rain and let it fall on him just for the pain of it. He didn't look up when she entered. Yn walking in softly. Did the rain put you in a mood, or the ghosts? Taehyung barely above a whisper. Ghosts don't visit. They live here. She walked toward him, sat beside him, didn't speak, just waited. Taehyung still staring at the fire. My mother died in a warehouse meant for me. A rival gang sent her body in a wooden crate. I was 17. Why? Anne's breath caught. Taehyung, my father became worse after that. He raised me like a gun, cold, loaded, meant to destroy. But Mr. Lee, he softened me, just a little. He finally turned his head to her. And then he left me too. and handed me you. Wide and quietly, he didn't hand me to you. He handed you back to yourself. Taehyung blinked. Why then, you think you're this cold, heartless weapon? But I see how you watch over the staff, how you clench your jaw when I walk into a room full of men. How your voice lowers every time you say my name. You're not ice, Taehyung. You're fire pretending to be ice. Taehyung voice cracked. I don't know how to love. Without ruining things, Widen leaned in, touched his cheek, and whispered, Then ruin me, but don't leave me cold. He dropped the glass. In one swift, hungry moment he kissed her. Not soft, not gentle, but real, desperate, full of fire and trembling hands. Her robe slipped off one shoulder. His hand was at the back of her neck, pulling her deeper into him like she was the only thing anchoring him to this earth. The thunder outside roared, but inside, only his breath on her skin, her moan in his ear, and their names falling from each other's lips. Why then? I was right, you know, Taehyung smirking. About what? Why in? You don't ruin things. You burn through pain until only the truth remains. He kissed the top of her head. Then maybe you're my truth. The rain had stopped, but the silence still hung thick. Wyan wandered into her father's old study untouched, sealed since his death. She ran her fingers along the shelves, the dusty files, the old tea mug still on the desk. Then her eyes caught something. A plain brown envelope tucked beneath the desk lamp. It had her name written in faded ink. To my dearest Wyan. If I never get to say this, her fingers trembled as she opened it. My Wyan, if you're reading this, I failed in the one thing I always feared most, not being there for you. I was never the father you deserved. You saw me at birthdays, graduation photos, through the glass of car windows. I stood in the shadows of your life, well holding the sun for someone else's, and I hated myself for it. But Taehyung, he reminded me of myself when I had fire. And yet, he was more, braver, sharper, better. I made a selfish choice, my angel. I asked him to protect you, but I also knew what I was doing. I was giving you to the only man I ever trusted. If he hurts you, forgive him. If he loves you, trust him. And if you ever doubt yourself, remember this. I may have raised a soldier, but I was blessed with a warrior for a daughter. With all the love I didn't show you, Appa Wyan stood frozen, silent tears rolling down her face. She didn't notice Taehyung standing at the doorway until his arms were suddenly around her. She didn't speak. He didn't ask. She just sobbed into his chest, gripping his shirt like a lifeline. After a long pause, Taehyung softly, I read the letter to. Widen looked up, eyes wide. He nodded, voice hoarse. Taehyung, he left a second copy for me. He called me the son he never had. Said he regretted loving me more than his own blood. Wyan barely a whisper. You weren't the only one who lost him. Taehyung clenched his jaw. Guilt sharp? Taehyung, I took him from you, Wyan. No, this world did. She reached up, wiping her own tears, then his. We both lost someone, but maybe we can keep what he left behind. Taehyung didn't say anything. He just cupped her cheeks, leaned in, and kissed her tear-stained lips. It wasn't passion. It wasn't hunger. It was a promise.